Hi, and welcome to the world of PHsPeed. My name is Rosie, and in this series of videos, I will introduce PHsPeed version 2.0. PHsPeed is a low-code platform. You can create applications without a single line of code, as I have shown you in many samples. However, in many cases, you need to apply some behavior that is not standard out of the box. Then you need to write some code. In this video, I will create some applications to show you how you can apply your code. I start simple so that novice developers can pick up some basics as well. First, I create a simple form, with one edit field and a button. This is a very simple program that already works. I can enter the field and click on the button. I can see in the sidebar that something is happening, but I don't see any effect on the form itself. I want to change this sample to move the form input into the field's label. As you can see, the form has components with properties. There is a property editor that allows me to change the properties. But that is a static process. It is set by default and does not change. When the user clicks on the button, the browser sends the data to the PHP application. So I need to find a place to read this data and move it into the field's label. For these purposes, all components have events. Events are moments triggered by the system and allow you to apply your code. The first event I want to discuss is the onSubmit form of the form. This event gets triggered when you click on the button. To apply the event code, go to the PHP Events tab of the property editor. Click in this event, and it will open a PHP editor where you must write your code. A great option is a feature to precompile your code to see if you have made any syntax errors. I will talk about the $sign in a minute, but in this procedure, I assign the received value of the edit component to its label. You can switch between the form and the code at any time using function key F12 or F11, or by using the right mouse click. PHsPeed saves all the PHP event code in the same source code file of the module. So you can make your changes, even in other events. The name of the function must correspond to the name in the event. PHsPeed generates this name. Usually, you don't have to change that. So what does the $$ mean, as PHP variables usually are identified by a single $sign? To understand that, you need to look at the generated code found in the project inspector. If you look at the generated code, you will see the main application and a PHP file for each component. In the main application, all used variables are declared, and here you can see that the variable's name is prepended with the module name. Under normal circumstances, this name is the name you need to use in your code, and in fact, if you do so, the system will work well. However, as you can rename a module, you must change all your variable names. The $sign tells the generator to prepend the variable by its module name. All visible components have the properties value and label. Now I have shown you the onSubmit button event. There are many different events. Some are generic and used in each event. Samples are the onCreate and onDestroy events that are fired when the application starts and finishes. Visual components like edit fields and checkboxes have the onActivate event and onBeforeRender events. So, when do these events get fired, and how you can use them in your application? PHsPeed applications run in two phases. The HTML template is generated and sent to the browser in the first phase. When the browser has received this template, it will request the data and send a new request. This is a hidden AJAX call. Depending on the components on the form, more AJAX requests can occur, as some components require their own type of data. If you look at the schema, you will see that the create, destroy, and activate events are triggered in the first and second phases. In the second phase, the render events get fired. The easiest way to understand is that the second phase is the AJAX phase. It only runs when there is an AJAX event. So if you create an AJAX event of your own, then the application will only execute the second phase. If you need to apply code that is only applicable in a certain phase, you can use the AJAX function. Let's go back to our demo application and show you what is going on in your application. To do this, I will use the built-in PHP debugger. Instead of running the application by using the big green arrow button, I now use the Run in Debug Mode button. It will start up the debugger and then hand over the control to you before running any code. It is now ready to run the first phase, building the HTML template. By using the function keys F7 or F8, you can step through your code. The difference is that F7 will jump into functions, while F8 will jump over. The inform IDE functions inform the IDE about the data that is transferred to your application. These calls are removed when you promote your code for production, something I will explain in the video about application deployment. In the tabs below, you can inspect this data. When a component or object is created, then the component constructor is called. PHsPeed has an object-oriented design. Each component is created, and in the constructor, the onCreate is called. Then the system will verify the state it is in. If the application is in the first phase, then it will create the HTML template. In any state, you can inspect the value of a variable by hovering the mouse over the variable. If you see a lot of objects and arrays, then you can use the inspector that enables you to look deeper into the data structure. To continue the application, I use function key F9. It will hand over the control to your browser that will then initiate an AJAX event to retrieve the data. Here, we can see that as the application jumps into the debugger for the second time. Now the application jumps into the second phase and executes the AJAX request. The AJAX request will receive a message in JSON format that contains the rendered fields. This message can be viewed in the JSON inspector. It can show you in detail what the application is sending to your browser. If you use the submit method of sending data, then the form will be totally replaced by a new version. Usually, that is not a problem, as you probably will use the input to jump to another page. But there are enough situations where you might want to just alter a small portion of your form, as that saves time and is a better user experience. To achieve that, you need to use AJAX events. Using AJAX involves PHP and JavaScript events. In this sample, I will use the onClick event of the button that also has a JavaScript event with the same name. But first I will move the onSubmit code to this onClick event and remove the onSubmit event just for clarity. To make this event an AJAX event, you have to apply the JavaScript event. Fortunately, you only have to assign it, but not write it. PHsPeed does that for you. I will now generate and run the code to see if the application does the same as before, but now by using AJAX. The application appears to work right. However, if you look at the JSON panel, you will see that the form's data is sent twice. The reason is that the button has a double function. It is still assigned as a submit and as an AJAX button. You need to change the button type of submit into button to fix this. If I try again, you will see that this data is now only sent once. Now is a perfect moment to introduce you to a debugging feature and give detailed information about setting breakpoints and using the data inspector. First, you have to go to the generated code because that is the code that is actually running. Then locate the button code. The event code can be found at the end. Then click on the line to enable the breakpoint. I start the application in debugging mode, and if you remember well, you know that there are two phases, so I need to start the debugging process twice to get the form. The breakpoint is not fired because the code has not been executed yet. But if I enter some data and click on the button, the debugger opens again, and I use the continue button to run the code. The debugger will stop at the breakpoint. Hovering over the variable reveals its content, but there are a lot of objects. I use the right mouse click and select Inspect. That allows me to inspect the variables. Because I need to look deeper into the component, I have to choose the right level. Then I scroll down to find the value property. As you can see, it has the value test that I have entered. However, there is another place that you can inspect, and that is the PHP post variable. Here you can find all the data that is received by your application. Besides events that are caused by user interaction, PHsPeed also supports some application flow events, as I will demonstrate in the next sample. I create a simple grid application, and on each row, I want to make some modifications to the output. First, I want to change the gender field where I want the gender being replaced into a full name, so female instead of F and male instead of M. I also want to modify the birth date and only display the year. The on each row event allows me to be notified on each record, and the system will pass me the content so that I can modify it. You can also use the event to add things to custom fields like images, YouTube links, and more. In other videos, I will go deeper into some of the more advanced features of PHsPeed, but for now, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you for watching.